Hi, good afternoon. My name is Loren Webb. I'm with the Washington County Historical Society, and this is the 15th in a series of oral history interviews that we are conducting here on the campus of Utah Tech University, and this is the Community Education Channel Studios. I have here with me LaRee Jones, and tell us a little bit about, first of all, LaRee, just tell us your full name.
Okay, my full name is Mary LaRee McAllister Jones.
Okay, and how did you become interested in history?
Well, first of all, I loved reading. And so, you read a lot about history when you're reading. And then I married a history teacher. And so that was the icing on the cake, because we traveled to many historical places because he knew all about them. And then we would go there and he'd be talking to us, the family, all about this and that and what happened. And he just made that area come to life.
I bet.
And so it was just a wonderful experience.
So what led you to become a public school teacher?
Well, back in the 50s when I was in school, basically if you were a professional, there weren't too many areas that you could, that women could find employment in. And teaching was one of those, nursing was one of those, and business was one of those. And I gravitated toward teaching. I just thought it was fun to teach, and taught my little sisters a lot, and that's how I became interested. I thought teaching was for me.
Okay. So if you were employed outside of the Washington County School District, what district did you teach in, and what subject did you teach, and what years did you teach there?
Well, basically, I wasn't employed outside of the Washington School District on that basis.
Your very first employment was with the school district then?
Basically,
Okay.
But I was an adjunct professor.
Oh, okay.
I was an adjunct professor for SUU and for Utah State.
Oh, okay.
And so I worked with them all the years that I was coordinator for Washington School District in accelerated learning, extended learning, and gifted and talented.
Okay.
And so that was from 1991 until 2007.
Okay, so did you start with the school district in 1991, or?
No, I started before them.
Okay, so when did you go to work for the Washington County School District, and which elementary school did you teach at, and what grade did you teach?
Okay, this is an interesting story because growing up during World War II, I didn't want to leave my children because my parents had worked and I was put in nursery school and I didn't like it. So I wasn't going to do that to my children. So basically, I was called on about 1975 or 77, right in there, to do some classes in the various schools. And these classes were funded by federal money that was coming into the school districts via accelerated learning. So these were for students that needed a little more challenge in the classroom. And so I started then. And I basically did classes at East Elementary School and at West Elementary School. And then I did classes for elementary students home-based at Dixie High School. So their parents would bring them into Dixie High School.
And the approximate address of East Elementary was, at the time, 600 East and about, 400 South? Between 4 and 500 South, right?
Yes, between 4 and 500 South on 600 East.
And what is it now?
It's the Atwood.
It's the Atwood Innovation Plaza, owned by Utah Tech University today, right?
Yes.
Okay. So what subjects did you teach?
Well, but for extended or when I hit the classroom?
When you first were in the classroom, you taught everything, right?
Yes, I did.
What did you teach?
I taught core curriculum. My first year of teaching, which garnered me the Sally May First Year Teacher Award that year, was a split 4th and 5th. So I had split kids that were accelerated kids, and I had to do the core curriculum for 5th grade and for 4th grade, plus challenge them beyond that because they were really sharp kids. And what they didn't need was more time to do times tables or more time to learn the verbs and things like that. What they needed was a challenge beyond that. So it was a delightful time. I loved it.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But at the end of that year, I had to choose between 4th grade and 5th grade.
Okay.
Now, federal money came into the school district for accelerated students beginning in 4th grade.
And that's when you decided you wanted to be the accelerated learning coordinator in the district, is that right?
Yes. Well, beyond that.
Okay.
But before, well, in the school was fine. But then they picked me up from the school and asked me to come and do the district.
Okay.
But I wanted to challenge those accelerated kids. They're so fun. I mean, they're so curious, number one. And number two, they just love challenges.
Wow.
And so it was just fun to teach them.
So did you stay with 4th or 5th grade?
I stayed with 4th grade,
4th grade,
because
okay.
that was where the beginning was.
Okay.
And then as the students came in, I could actually see which ones were accelerated and which ones weren't, and which ones would love the challenges and which ones really weren't interested.
So what did you feel like were your accomplishments with the accelerated learning coordinator position?
For my district and for my school, opportunity.
Wow.
It was all centered on opportunity, because if students don't have opportunities, they aren't challenged.
Right.
And so for my school district, well, basically, when I became the school district GT coordinator, which was in 1991, right after I got my master's degree in that field, we had just one challenged program, and that was spelling bee.
Oh, wow.
That was all.
That was it, huh?
That was it, other than sports, you know. And so basically, from there it was fun to build this program in all sorts of areas for accelerated students. History Fair, or National History Day, was one of the first ones we did. Then there was a group in our district that really wanted to do an elementary science fair. And we became the first school district west of the Mississippi that had an elementary science fair. Now, high school had it, and my children had been involved in the high school science fairs, and probably you were too, Laura. But anyway, the district said, you know a little bit about this because you're a parent. Can we bring this in and do it? And I said, absolutely we can, and we will. And so we did, and then on top of that, there were Science Olympiad, which is a jump up from science fair. All of these things that we brought into the district to begin with had to have the criteria of state competition and national competition.
And that's all came about as because of accelerated learning program.
Absolutely.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So with Geography B, we had a student here back in the 1990s. Can't remember his first name. His last name was Lingwall, Neil Lingwall's son. 3rd place in the nation in Geography B. He got his whole college degree paid for by the Geography Bee. Isn't that neat?
Yeah.
And so they're out there. Debate is out there, and debate is great. National Storytelling Festival. We had all of these programs that we introduced and brought to students.
That's just incredible.
We did it on a school level, and then if they accelerated on a school level, we brought them into the district, and from there to region, and then to state, and then to national.
Did you go to nationals?
All the time.
And where was nationals?
Well,
Depended on the program?
it depended on the program.
Okay.
Storytelling is in Jonesboro, Tennessee. Okay. I did not go to National Science Olympiad, but that's back east. I think it's Minnesota. I did go to science fairs, although our elementary kids couldn't do that, but our high school kids did. And I went to Fort Worth, Texas, and San Juan, Puerto Rico, to those fairs. And National History Day is at the University of Maryland in College Park, Maryland.
Right.
And I went back there and judged. I went back 12 years, and I think I judged 9 of those 12 years.
Oh my gosh.
National.
So what led you to incorporate the National History Day program into the Washington County School District curriculum?
Okay, we started that first. That I was teaching, and my goodness, Fourth grade is Utah history. Fifth grade is U.S. and sixth grade is world, and then it goes on from there, you know, in intermediate school and middle school. Well, there was such a short amount of time in the curriculum to do Utah history. Stop and think, our students live in Utah.
Right.
90% of them will live their entire life in Utah. And we had this small amount of time to spend on Utah. And so I had read about this history fair. And I thought, it's going to be sponsored one last year at SUU. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get my students ready, and we'll go to SUU and see what this is all about. And that's what I did. And we had a wonderful time. We had a great trip.
Well, I want to just go back and clarify. When you talked about a short amount of time to teach Utah history, is it a trimester, 9-week trimester? Or is it a full year?
No, it's just 9 weeks.
That's it.
That's it.
9 weeks.
And the entire school, fourth grade school curriculum.
Do you think that that's sufficient today to teach Utah history?
No, no, it's really not. But I understand the crunch. You know, we know what we're in, and we know what we have to do, and so, you know, we just accommodate.
Okay.
But it was fun to be able to get the kids into the history fair.
So who else was involved with the National History Day program? And if so, who were they, and what contributions did they make to localizing the program as well, in addition to yourself?
It was basically, it kind of evolved. When I took my students, and this was in about 1990, 91, to SUU, I met the director, the state director, who at that time was Mike Johnson. And I visited with him a little bit, and he was talking about a class that you could actually take. My students didn't do well in the competition. And so I thought, well, this is my fault. I'm just not prepared. So I was talking to him, and he said, well, we have this class. And he said it's a wonderful opportunity because it's graduate credit. It's beyond bachelor's. It's 3 semester credits, okay, $45. And I fainted because what a price.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, of course, that was back in the 90s. I understand. But anyway, and he said, basically, I come and I teach 3 hours of this class and give you all the information. And then you go from there and you take students through the class and have them compete on a school and a district level. Right. And for elementary, they cannot go to state. But in intermediate and middle and high school, they can. And so I said, I need to take this class. When are you giving it? And he said, well, when would you like to sponsor it? In Washington School District, and I'll come down and we'll do it, you know. And so I said, well, you name a time when you can come down. And so he did. And so I brought teachers in, mainly because they needed credit. Mm-hmm. You have to be fair and honest. They were more interested in credit than they were in the history fair, but they got hooked because it was so good. And so we brought that into the school district early, and that was right after the spelling bee, one of the biggest things we did.
Okay, so who else was involved? Like Catherine Laney?
Well,
Did she come later, or?
She came a little bit later, yes.
Okay.
We offered this class every year, year after year, and I don't think Catherine was even teaching back in 1991. But anyway, she came, and she was absolutely, she loved history anyway, and she was absolutely wonderful. And we teamed through all of the district events, and we ran the Southwest Region History Fair for about 32 years.
It's just incredible. And tell us a little bit about your judges. I mean, where did you draw your judges from?
My husband, the good history teacher, and he knew all of the history teachers on the district level, and so he was just great to get them to come. And I think we got you to come because you were
you did.
You were teaching history, and you know the whole story that way. And we always had the state director there, and once in a while the national director. And so it was really fun well, I better clarify that. The national director came to Utah, not to St. George. But anyway, it was really fun because we had all of these qualified history teachers that knew everything about history. And then all they had to do was slot it into either the elementary, the intermediate, the middle school, or the high school.
Okay.
And it worked out well. And every one of the students was judged at least 3 times. And that was the criteria. If you were going to do a regional or a district event, you had to have judges enough that the students could be judged by 3 different judges.
3 different judges. Okay, so what are the 5 categories that students can choose to present their work for a National History Day project, and then describe the 2 age divisions that students can compete in?
Well, this is basically, I brought the judging sheets. I still have them, but the judging sheets are basically this.
And we'd like to have the cameras, if you can put it up there where the camera can see that, see the categories.
Okay, what I wanted to do, so we have website. Okay, and this is the latest one that came on, but it's been on about 20 years after we got the computers. And then processed paper, historical paper, exhibits. These are your exhibit boards. Wonderful, wonderful things. And then performance. And then documentaries. Now,
And those are the judging forms.
these are the judging forms. Yep. So everyone that competes should have the judging forms so they know what they're going to be judged on, and they usually do. Historical papers and performances were the absolute least entered of the categories, so they were always the best ones to win in, right? And so we really concentrated on historical papers and performances. But we had huge, wonderful exhibit boards, great documentaries, and web pages. They were super good. So there are categories. There's an individual or there's a group. The group not to exceed 5. And then, like I said, we had
an age group too.
They had the elementary, so that was 4th through 5th grade, and then intermediate, 6th through 7th, could go to state, middle, 8th through 9th, and then 10th through 12th for high school.
So there was actually 4 different groups.
There were, but the intermediate groups and the middle school were kind of mushed together.
Okay. Do any of those student papers or performances or exhibits, what stands out? Do you remember any that student papers, student projects, any of those that stood out?
Well, they were all wonderful to judge, and they were all wonderful to read, and they were all wonderful to see. What stands out in my mind are those that won at state and those that went to national and won at national.
Okay.
Now, back in the 1990s, we had a wonderful performance group from Dixie Middle School. They performed the Navajo Code Talkers, and they won national. And then just last year, we had a group from Dixie High School who went back to national and won with the Lewis Braille performance. So this is just great. And I think ones that impressed me were the ones that the students really learned a lot about. Probably the Donner Party and how they were flim-flammed.
Oh, yeah. The Hastings cutoff.
By
tragedy up in Donner Lake.
Yep, and by Lanford Hastings in his book.
Yes.
Which he promised he'd come and take them through, and of course the book was false and things like that.
It killed people.
It did.
Guidebook that actually resulted in the deaths of a number of people. Yeah, just
and that
incredible.
was interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
So describe how the National History Day competition is set up in Washington County. Maybe just what is it when you go over to a school, and how is it set up physically?
Basically, every year we did an orientation in the school and in the schools. And then from there, depended on a lot on the history teacher and what they could do. Catherine Laney was wonderful, both at Hurricane Middle, and then when she came over to Lava Ridge, where she still is, and she required it of all of her students. This is really good because when you get into this program, you have to learn to do process papers. You have to learn to do bibliographies and annotated bibliographies, which you usually don't learn until your first year of college. And then you learn the research process and actually determining from that research process what's important and what isn't, because there's a time limit on the performances and on documentaries, and so you had to stay within a time limit as well. So you actually had to slice through all of that information and decide what was the most important.
How were the judges selected to judge the entries?
Basically, we always had history teachers.
Okay.
And we always had the state rep and the regional and district coordinators.
And there's usually, as I recall, there was like 3 judges that judge together, or 2 judges, and then one of them submits the totals
Yes.
to a reporting agency or group.
To our group on the district level.
Okay.
And then we send out another set of judges after we'd reviewed those judging sheets. And they had to judge the project board on its own. They had listened to the student, and then another judge went out and judged just the board itself. Okay. So it's really detailed and took a lot of time, but it was good.
Yeah. How long were you involved with the National History Day program in Washington County? You said 32 years?
32 years.
And what stands out about the caliber of the students who competed in that program?
They were just amazing. I just thought, you are so good, and you don't really realize at this point how much you've learned or how that's going to help you throughout your life. But I was always impressed with the students that took the challenge and did the work.
Right. Okay.
And we tried to reward them with ribbons and with medals and with things like that.
So what winners from the Washington County National History Day program were eligible to compete at the state level?
The first and second place winners in each of these categories, in the individual, and in the group, and in each of those 5 categories.
So, and then at the national level, it became the first and second, right?
From
the
state.
Okay.
That would go back to national.
And you took students back there from out of 9 out of 12, did you say 12 years? Or
I judged 9 out of 12 years.
Judged 9 out of 12.
And we took students back 12 years.
And what was that experience like?
Yes. It's a lot of work. It was always a lot of work, but we encouraged the parents to go.
Yeah.
Because in connection with the history fair, which is, or the National History Day it's called now, they were able to travel Washington, D.C. We always set it up so that they could travel and go to Congress and see both the House and the Senate. And we also had, at times, before the big problems, they were able to go to the White House and tour that. They were able to tour the monuments. They were able to tour all around Washington, D.C. and get a feel of what it was like. And then we had our state legislators come and talk to them so they could get their picture taken. I've got pictures, I should have brought them, but they could have their pictures taken with their state legislators.
Okay. So how were you able to arrange all of the East Elementary photos on the Washington County Historical Society website?
Okay, are we through with?
And is there anything else that you wanted to talk about the National History Day program that I didn't ask?
No, that's
okay.
fine. National History Day is fine. Basically, what I did...
Or the Accelerated Learning Program.
I started, at East Elementary, we started the Accelerated Learning Program in 1988. And I had this is a sample of how we set up for the school year. So we had a calendar that had every single event. You'll find geography on here, you'll find storytelling on here, you'll find debate on here, you'll find all of these events, and Holiday of Harmony, all that we did on the district level, but they were all scheduled here, and because we had to have a school competition or a school event first, and then we went from there to district and on.
So that included National History Day, the Science Fair, the Spelling Bee, and
Geography.
And the Geography.
Geography B.
Geography B.
But for elementary school because that started in middle school, we did geography challenge. And so 4th grade, they were challenged in Utah history, 5th grade in U.S. history, and in 6th grade world history. And then we ran a big regional fair. Michael Stevenson over at Pineview Middle School always hosted that, did a wonderful job.
Okay.
So we had great judges.
Okay. Anything else on accelerated learning before we talk about the photos?
There's a ton, but I can't think of anything more to share.
Okay. So how were you able to arrange all of these East Elementary photos on the Washington County Historical Society website?
Well, by that time I was retired, because I retired in 2007. And so my husband was working with the director of the Washington County Historical Society and the webmaster, okay? And so he spent a lot of time with George Cannon. And when he found out that I was a retired teacher from East Elementary, he said, well, they had a coordinator at West Elementary who had put a lot of the history of West Elementary on the website. And would East be willing to do that? And so I went. By that time, we had a retired teacher's luncheon. So we met once a month and had lunch. And so we talked about that at our luncheon. And we had teachers like Elaine Allred and Lola Perkins and all those girls that wanted to do it. And so we went to Dar Smith, who was still living then. He was thrilled. He thought that it should be preserved for posterity, and all of this information and these photos of students should be where they could get them at them handily. And so he thought that was great. So we went in, and East Elementary had kept a scrapbook every year. And so we got those scrapbooks and opened them up, and I took them to George, and together we digitized all of those, and they're now on the website.
Which is an amazing contribution, I think, to the history of all of the like I say, East Elementary, and I hope that they do that with all of the other elementaries in the school.
So West Elementary's on there, East Elementary's on there, and I had understood that Sunset Elementary was working on that at this time. I'm not certain, but that's what I had understood.
Right.
So
Okay.
that'll be fun for kids to look up and see what they looked like when they were young.
So what other educational programs above and beyond the regular classroom instruction have you been involved with at the elementary level? Anything else that we haven't talked about?
I can't think of anything right offhand. Storytelling was always delightful. They always have those little kids that read a book and want to share it, and so this was really a fun opportunity. And we partnered with the City of St. George, and the Mayor of St. George, bless his heart, signed every certificate for every participant.
Oh, isn't that awesome?
Isn't that amazing
I love
that he would do that?
Yeah.
And we gave medals to all of the participants, and we had 4 genres. We had humorous. Mm-hmm. They usually appeared over in the Opera House because that was the largest category. Now these were all school winners through Washington School District, and they had come to the district now to have this. And then we had fantasy, and then we had mystery and adventure, and then we had what? Can't remember. It was probably fantasy, mystery, and adventure. And sorry, maybe tomorrow I'll remember it.
But it sounds, those categories sound just fun.
It was just
fun.
It was just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you taught how many years again in the Washington County School District?
34.
34. And as you look back over your teaching career, what things stand out?
Oh, the relationships.
Okay.
And all of the support I had. First of all, on the district level, from my elementary directors, which were Jean Bennett, that asked me to go to district, and then Kent Christensen and Rex Wilkie, couldn't have been better. Right up to Colleen Granger and Max Rose, the superintendents, and Marshall Toppin, they were all just marvelous, because getting these students to national was horrendous. Getting into state was enough, but national was horrendous. And then the different people that I've met, for instance, Debate was National Energy Foundation. They sponsored that, and they did such a great job, and I have great friends up there that I met that way. But it's the people. You meet all of these wonderful people and all of these teachers that are ready to give of their time above and beyond, and it was just great. And these friendships are still my most cherished friendships.
I would
It
imagine.
started then.
Yeah, that's great. How did your husband, Heber Jones, assist you with the teaching, and as he himself was a history teacher on the junior high and middle school level?
He was wonderful. If I came home discouraged or if I had a problem, I could sit down and talk to him and say, what do you do in a situation like this? Or what should I do about that? Or what would you do, And he read the situation perfectly, and he knew what to do and what to tell me to do, and it always worked out really well.
Yeah, that's great.
It was super.
You two were a great team.
We loved it.
Yeah. What other civic or religious organizations do you participate in, if any?
Well, I participated in a lot. In my church, I was always involved in church things, and I was the state Golden Gleaner president, or state Silver Gleaner president. So I decided I wanted to be a Golden Gleaner, which is as far as you could go on the Young Women's program back then, and I got that. And at that time, President Gordon B. Hinckley was not the president. He was one of the 12 apostles, but he was down to a state conference, and he had my husband and I come up in front of the stake and awarded me this Golden Gleaner. And it was really a very nice thing.
Yeah.
It was great. And so in my church, I've been Relief Society president, and I've been Young Women's president twice. Loved those callings, loved all of the callings. And then in the primary, I've been a second counselor with the scouting. And since I had a lot of boys, I was really involved in scouting and enjoyed it. And when Heber was getting his master's degree through an NDA scholarship at Utah State, I had little children on campus. And so we went down and learned all about 4-H. And so we started doing 4-H, and that led me into 4-H. And so I received my Silver Beaver in 1986, and 4 years ago, I received my 50-year pin in 4-H.
In 4-H.
In
That's
4-H.
so amazing.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great.
So it's been just exciting, and the people that I've associated there also, just great friends.
Okay.
They're all wonderful.
Where
And
were you
then-
born? Oh, go
okay.
ahead.
And then I spent 6 years as the Home Arts Director for the Washington County Fair, and I co-chaired Heritage Week for 6 years as well.
Okay. And Heritage Week was that St. George or Washington County Heritage
That
Week?
was St. George, and it actually was the time when we celebrated the settling of St. George and when we became a city,
Yes.
January 17th.
And what a great program that was.
We had a wonderful time. And actually, storytelling evolved from that. So
Okay.
it's all good.
So where were you born?
Kanab,
Okay. Kanab,
Utah.
Okay.
Lived there only 2 years, but I was born there.
And who else was in your family?
I have 5 sisters, 2 older and 3 younger, and I have an older brother.
Okay. And what did your community look like when you were growing up outside of your family?
Well, this is interesting because basically between the time that I was born and that I can remember and the time that I graduated from high school, I had 3 communities. I grew up in Salt Lake City, went to school on the campus of the University of Utah, Stewart School, so we always had student teachers, always had wonderful opportunities, could go to Kingsbury Hall to all of their dress performances, for musicals and for dramas and for ballet. So that to grow up with that experience was great. And then we went to the science building, got to see the big dinosaurs, got to touch a meteorite, something from little kids. I mean, it was just wonderful.
Yeah.
So that was a great experience. And I did a lot of babysitting. And back then, I could walk from my home, which was 5 blocks from this school, across the campus of the University of Utah to Stadium Village to babysit. I could do that in the early evening and never be afraid. You couldn't do that now, but I could back then in Salt Lake.
Okay.
So that was good. Then, when I was 14, we left Salt Lake and we went to Paraguna, Utah. 368 people, dirt roads, no indoor bathroom, wooden coal stove, rode the school bus to Parowan to 9th grade. Total change. We were there about 15 months and then moved to St. George. And that was when St. George had 1 street light and 1 high school and the whole 9 years. And I went to Woodward and then on up through.
Okay.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, and you went through Dixie High School, right?
And Dixie College.
Okay, and then Dixie College. So tell me about your college years. Anything stand out there?
We had a wonderful time. Loved my teachers. Thought it was a great experience. I was elected Commissioner of Amusements 2 different years, and so we did wonderful assemblies back then. They were major productions, and we had to do D-Day floats and D-Day skits and do all sorts of fun things like that. And then I was president of the FBLA Club when I was at Dixie College, Future Business Leaders of America. So we were able to do a lot of things with business. And I was working at the time, because I worked from the age of 16 on at MacArthur Jewelers. And we were able, through the FBLA Club, to get a lot of our club members part-time jobs in the various businesses around town. So they would work 2 or 3 hours after school or so. So it was really a great thing.
Oh my gosh. Did you have any influential mentors at that time too?
Oh, my teachers were all wonderful. I loved every single one of them. Myrtle Henderson, the drama teacher, was good. Mrs. Seifus, Beth Seifus, was just great. And they told my mom, oh, she has a bit of talent in drama. You better keep her going in drama. And so that was fun.
I bet.
Participated in plays and participated giving oral readings, which they don't do much anymore, at state and things like that.
Okay. How did you meet and marry your spouse?
How much time have you got? This is a crazy story. I was working as a car hop at Church's, and you remember Church's.
Church's Chicken. Out on the old Highway 91, which is now, I guess they call it Sunset Boulevard. But,
they do.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, so it was between Santa Clara
and it was
and
up on a
St.
hill,
George.
wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. You rode up on a hill.
Okay.
I was one of the car hops there.
Oh my gosh.
And one day, this guy walks in, knocks on the door. And he tells me who he is. He says, I'm Tom MacArthur. He said, I run a jewelry store uptown. And I knew about MacArthur Jewelers. You know, I'd seen it. He said, would you like to come and work for me? And
just like that?
Just like that. And I thought, wow, if you work in a jewelry store, number one, you get your nights off. Number two, you don't have to work on Sunday. I said, sure, I'll be glad to do that, you know. And so he said, what time could you come today? And so I said, well, today's a good day. I said, I think you'd be there by 2 o'clock. And he said, okay, I'll see you at 2. Turned around and left.
Oh my gosh.
So I got up to the jewelry store at 2 o'clock, and he said, now look over the merchandise, and you're to help people. And he said, this is the till. If you make a sale, you write it up on this paper, you put the money in here, etc. And so I had a couple of good customers, and so I could sell, he decided. Anyway, we got ready to close up. So he showed me how we take the diamonds out of the showcase window and put them in trays and put them in the safe in the back, and how we lock the safe, and then how we check the 2 doors, turn out the lights. And he had me lock and unlock the front door 2 or 3 times, okay? And then he said, I'll take you home. And I said, okay. On the way home, he said, look, I'm scheduled to go out of town tomorrow. I'm scheduled to take my wife and my parents to Washington State. And he said, would you feel comfortable about just staying with the store for about 7 work days while I'm gone?
Oh my gosh.
16 years old.
16 years old, and after only 1 day of training.
3 hours.
3 hours of training. Oh my gosh.
And I looked at him and I thought, he said, and I was about to say, and he said, I'll give you a number you can call if you have any problems. And I said, well, I guess if you feel like I can do it, I can do it. So he put the keys in my hand and drove off and left me home.
Oh my gosh.
Well, I had been there about 2 days, and in walks this guy with his Levi's and his T-shirt, you know. And he walks in, and I said, oh, can I help you? And he said, no. And he started walking around, you know. Well, he started coming back of the counter. And I said, whoa, I'm sorry, but only employees can come back here. And he said, oh, it's all right. And I said, no, it isn't. And he came a little bit further. And I said, you come one step further, and I'm calling the police. And he started to grin, and he said, I'm Tom MacArthur's cousin, and I'm here for a few days. And he asked me to just come and see how you're doing.
Did he tell you his name?
Yes. I said, what is your name? And I said, who are you staying with? Well, he was staying at Tom MacArthur's parents' home. They weren't there, but he was staying there. So I said, okay. So he came in and sat down, and so we developed a friendship then. But he did not date me until 3 years later.
This is Heber Jones?
This is Heber Jones. And he was at the University of Utah, but he came down at Christmas time to during the Christmas break, and he always helped customers during the Christmas rush, and we always did inventory together because we started that right after Christmas. And so 3 years later, he had his degree. He was working at Titanium Metals in Henderson, Nevada, and he said, would you like to go on a date? And so we started dating. Years later, I said, how come you didn't, I said, you would just take me home from work, but you'd never date me. How come you didn't date me sooner than 3 years? And he said, why would I date you? All you ever did was giggle, giggle, giggle.
Oh my gosh.
Is that not the craziest way to meet?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and I still got to go back and say, how did Tom MacArthur know to go out and find you at Vernon Church Chicken? Did he ever tell you that?
No, I was at home basically. He never did go to churches. And Mr. Church was really quite angry that I didn't give him notice, you know. But it wasn't a problem because he had a waiting list. He had a lot of people that would be car hops. But anyway, what had happened was his person that he was going to leave the jewelry store with up and left. She said, I can't work any longer. I've got this situation. So he was desperate. He wanted to go, had his kids all, knew where they were going to be, you know, they were all farmed out, everything. So he had some very good friends that were Irma and Leo Cephas.
Oh, yeah.
Irma knew me because I'd been house cleaning for her mother. And so anyway, and for some women around town, I'd go after school and clean their houses, etc. And so she suggested me.
Okay.
And so he just, right out of the blue, he just came down. He said, well, what's her address? Okay. So he just came down and asked for me, and that was it.
Oh my gosh. When did you get married?
We got married in 1956.
In 1956. And tell me about the aspects of raising your children. How many children did you have? And
We had 6 children, all boys.
all boys.
And we were blessed enough to raise 5 of them.
Okay.
We lost one that was born premature.
Okay. As you look back over your life, what would you like to be remembered for?
Well, being a loving wife and mother would probably be my most important. I think second, I would just like to be remembered for improving people's lives or doing something that made their lives better and happier and made them better citizens.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's all about that.
Okay. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you feel is important for this interview?
It's been delightful.
Okay.
We'll have to do it again.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking the time to meet with us, meet with me today, LaRee. I just really appreciate your expertise and your friendship over all the years. And anyway, we want to thank you, the audience, as well, for being here with us. And again, my name is Loren Webb. This is the Washington County Historical Society Oral History Interview. And again, this is one of the series. And thank you for joining us.